Okay, good Tavach, everyone. Wonderful to see everybody. We have a tall order tonight, two big blot, and we are starting by Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Rav, which is 8 lines from the bottom of Nun Amid Beis. 8 lines from the bottom of Nun Amid Beis, sponsored by A.B. Spry, the Refuah Shalema for Taiba Reise Bas Hindaleya, for great tzivugim for their daughter and grandchildren, by Baruch Ian Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yonah, Avram ben Shmuel HaKoyen, and Refuah Shalema for Liba Bas Anya. We're sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yehuda Ayer, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef ben Sion ben Yaakov Zeb, and for a great shidduch for Chayat Tivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. We're sponsored by Eddie Chazan for protection of Klal Yisrael and the IDF and their Nitzachin. We're sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection of Yeshua Menachem Mendel, Ben Bela Shendel Rivka, and by Menachem Umansky with a tefillah that all those that are looking for a shidduch should find it quickly and easily.
This Tavera is about Enda.
Yeah.
You said Enda Leia.
Toba Reise Bas Hinda, thank you. The Refuah Shalema sometimes looks like Leia, so
Okay. That's not a bad name either, but
right. Okay, and I think we could already greet in everybody as we welcome in Michael and A.B. Spry, Shelley Zeitlin, Yaakov Warman, Irving Fishbaum, Mo Kushner, Saba, Berish Gesserman, Dr. Black, Menachem Umansky, Dr. Guy, Mark Frankel, Mel Zachter, Michal Avram, Barry Cement, Ruvain Shannon, Nachman Chapler, Yitzi Fuchs, Rabbi Kranz, Victor Fried, Ben Zion Cohn, Yisrael Fisher, Naftali Jablin, Eddie Chazan, Stephen Holtzman, Moshe Lehman, Danny Vogel, Avram Rezepkowitz, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Ilya Shutman, and Chaim Braun. It's nice to start the night bright and early with 32 Zoomers already on this Motzoi Shabbos Nachmo. Yes.
Protect my father, Aaron ben Eliezer.
And we'll learn especially Ili Nishmas, Aaron ben Eliezer, Dr. Black's father. His neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. He should be a Melitz Yosher for his family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael.
My wife also for my uncle, Bebakasha, Rabbi Chaim Toledano.
Rabbi Chaim Toledano. His yahrzeit, his neshama should have an aliyah. He should be a Melitz Yosher for his family, for all of Klal Yisrael, with Eba Arbach coming in now as our 33rd Zoomer of this young evening. And that's what we like to see. So the Gemara now says as follows, again 8 lines from the bottom of Daf Nun Amid Beis. Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Rav, Avodas Kechavim she'oivdin oisa b'makel. A getchka that they worshipped with a stick, with a rod. So shavar makel b'faneh, if they break the rod in front of the getchka, chayiv. The chayiv means that he's chayiv misa, because we'll see that it's an avoda similar to shchita in the Beis Hamikdash. And Shimon, I believe that's Shimon Deer, just came in as our 34th Zoomer of the evening. However, Zorak Makel B'faneha, if he throws the rod at the Avoda Zara, he's potter. So Abaye says, I don't understand the difference. Why is he chayiv for breaking the rod? Because it's like the avodah of shchita. So Zorak Nami Avalei Kain Zrika, it should be like the throwing of the blood, and it should be chayiv as well. Says the Gemara, well, it's not similar to Zrika, because the Zrika, the blood sprinkles and separates. Amalei, but in a Zrika mishtaberes, you need a Zrika that's granulated, that goes off into many driplets of blood. And with the throwing of the rod, Veleka, you don't have that. So says the Gemara, Eisvei, a Avoda Zara that is worshipped with dung. It's a dirty business. Safas la soya, if you smear dung on it, or you pour over it a urinal of urine, the din is chayiv. You're chayiv. So the Gemara says, as we welcome in Gedalia Engel for our 36th Zoomer of the evening. Oh, this is what I like to see. Says the Gemara, Bishleim Ovid Shalmei Raglayim, urinal, Ikazrika Mishtaberes. The urine sprinkles like blood. Elatzaya, but the dung, Maizrika Mishtaberes Ika, says the Gemara, it's talking about B'tzaya Leicha, it's talking about liquefied dung, so it also sprays. Says the Gemara, Leikman Ketanai, let's say that this subject, that the smashing of the rod is considered like shchita, let's say that this is dependent on a machlokes tanoim. We learned shachat lo chagav. If you slaughter a grasshopper to the idol, Rabbi Yehuda Mechayiv, Rabbi Yehuda holds it's chayiv, b'chacham and paitrim. My lab b'hakam iflgi. The Mar Savar Amrinon ke'ein zvicha. It has to be similar to shchita, and slaughtering the grasshopper is also similar to shchita, which is a universal worship. It's not enough that it should be similar to slaughtering. It has to be actually like the slaughtering of an animal. Says the Gemara, loy. It's not enough to be similar. It's not enough. So smashing the rod would not be good enough. And it really has to be like shchita. But v'shani chagav, the grasshopper is different. Its neck is is similar to the neck of an animal. A getchket which is worshipped with a rod, shava makel b'fanei chayiv. You break the makel in front of it chayiv, v'neseres, and it is also forbidden. It becomes prohibited. Zorak makel b'fanei, but if you throw the stick in front of it, chayiv, ve'ena neseres. Now the Gemara says, what's the difference? Amalei Rav of Nachman Maishna shavar. It's like shchita, and therefore it is also forbidden. Zarak nami havilei kein zrika. Amalei, so he said, ba'inan zrika mishtaberes veleka. You need it to be a zrika that comes apart like blood, and you don't have it. No, but the reason why it's chayiv is because, as we said, that they did worship this Avoda Zara with a rod, so it is darkei bekach. Says the Gemara Elamiyata, if you need ke'ein pnim, so avnei beis merkulis, the stones that you throw at the merkulis, b'mei ye'asu, how do they become forbidden? It's not ke'ein pnim. Amalei, so he said, afla didi kashli, I also had this difficulty. Vishaltiel Rabba Baravua, and I asked Rabba Baravua. Virabba Baravua l'chia barav, l'chia barav asked it l'rav. This made the rounds. So he said the reason why it's usher is because it becomes an extension of the Avoda Zara. L'havdil, they say that when you go to a hakamas matzeva, or when you go to a cemetery and you put a rock on the matzeva, you're trying to make it's a symbol that you're making yourself an extension. You're building up the nifter or the nifteres by being elevated and thinking how you're going to be better. You're making the actual deceased bigger. So here, when you throw the rock at the Merkulis, you're actually magnifying the Avoda Zara, and the rock becomes usher because it is an Avoda Zara itself. The Gemara says, but even then, that's only good if you hold that the Avoda Zara of a guy is usher immediately. Of it that has to be worshipped, even if you're making it bigger, it should be forbidden until it's worshipped. Tishrei, Daloi Polcha, because it wasn't worshipped. Amalei, every person that throws the next stone is worshipping the extension. Amalei kol achas v'achas nasa avodas kechavim. Each stone becomes it magnifies the Avoda Zara, and the last stone is takruvas l'chaverta. It's offered and worshipping the one before it. So of course the question is, then the last stone shouldn't be forbidden, because the last stone was only made the Avoda Zara bigger, but it wasn't worshipped. Ihachi batraisa miyot. The last stone should be permitted. Says the Gemara, it's not so simple. The last stone that Barry throws at the Avoda Zara makes the Avoda Zara bigger, and it's also considered worshiping itself. It has a duality. It multitasks. Amalei, first the Gemara answers, you're right, the last stone would be permitted if you could figure out which one is the last stone. If you could figure out which one is the last stone, you could take it. Ravashi says, no, we have a nifty bit of multitasking over here. It becomes a bigger Avoda Zara, but it also is an act of worship to itself, and v'takruvas chaverta, and to the one before it. Now, Tanan, we're going to learn on the next Amud, this Mishnah, Tanan, Matzah b'roishe ksus u'mois oikelim. If you found on the top of the Merkulis a garment, money, or utensils, and the Gemara is going to explain that these were put in a way where it's not decorative, your folded pajamas on top of it, or you had a purse slung on it, or you had a basket, a basin turned upside down on it, Harielu mutar. But if there are parchile anavim v'atar shel shibolim, clusters of grapes, wreaths of stalks, v'yenos shmonim v'siltais, wine, oil, and flour, v'kol davar sheyotze b'kav l'gabei mizbeach, or anything else which is offered on the mizbeach, also. So the Gemara says, okay, yayin, shemen, and flour, that's ke'ein pnim. Bishloim yeinoy shmonim v'siltais ika ke'ein pnim. It's like the inside, because we offer libations, we have oil on the mizbeach and flour. But the ika ke'ein zrika mishtaberes, when you hurl it at the Avoda Zara, it sprays like blood, and it's like zrika, which is a universal avodah. Ela parchile anovim v'atar shel shibolim, but clusters of grapes and wreaths of stalks, like an ein pnimika, it's not like the inside, because we don't offer these things up. We don't offer a cluster of grapes. We don't offer a wreath of stalks. V'loik ein zrika mishtaberes, and these things don't granulate when you throw it at it. Amar Rava, Amar Ula, so Rava says in the name of Ula, this is a difficult answer, but he answers, it's kigayin shebatzron metchila lekach, where they were harvested initially for this purpose. So since the Mefarshim say, since the grapes become wine and the stalks become flour, so that is ke'ein pnim, and it was harvested initially for Avoda Zara, that's enough for it to become awesome. Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, minayin lezaveach balas mum la'avodas kechavim. How do we know that if somebody slaughters a blemished animal to Avoda Zara, she'll potter? Now normally, even if it's not the derech to offer to Avoda Zara, but zvicha is one of the universal worships. But since it's a blemished animal and it's not roy to the Beis HaMikdash, you're not chayiv for doing it to the Avoda Zara. Shenemar zoiveach le'elohim yecharam. One who slaughters to a Avoda Zara will be banned. Bilti la'Hashem levada. So the only zvicha that you're chayiv is something that could be done for Hashem. Lo asur Torah ela ke'ein pnim. So the Gemara says, what kind of blemish are we talking about over here? Have Rava. Rava wonders, b'may, ilayma b'doikin sheba ayin, if it's a cataract, but a cataract is accepted in the worship, in the behema of a guy. Hashta livnei noyach. For a bnei noyach, chazya l'gavoya, it's permitted for a ben noyach to offer if it only has a doikin sheba ba'ayin. B'bama did who? On their bama. So then for Avoda Zara, it should definitely be considered a valid method of worship. L'avodas kechavim b'boy, and therefore they should be chayiv. Ela b'mechusa eiver. It's talking about where it's missing a limb. Where it's missing a limb, they're not allowed to offer on their bama to Hashem where it's mechusa eiver. How do I know that Bnei Noach cannot offer to Hashem on their bama of a chusar eiver? Shenemar, because it says, and please mute yourself if you're not muted. I guess I could help people. Shenemar, as it says, Umikol achai mikol basar, from all that is living, from all flesh, nayim mikol, two from each type. Now, from the fact that it says that they will come to the teva, obviously they're alive. Why does it have to say mikol achai? Amra Torah have behema, you have to bring an animal shechayin roshei evarin shela, that its limbs are all whole. And it says Rashi Evarim means the tips of the fingers and the toes, says the Gemara, but don't we learn something else out from Mikol Chai? Hayim Mikol Chai Mebayle the Mu'ute Treifa, to exclude a Treifa. That he says we know, Milahacha Yoizera Nafka, that the reason why we brought them into the Teva is to procreate, is to continue the race. So Hanich Lamandi Amatrefa and Yoledes, that's good according to Mandi Amatrefa cannot give birth. Elamandi Amatrefa Yoledes Maikilamema. How do we know to exclude a trefa? Amakra, it says you should take them itach. Noach should take them with you. Itach b'daimelach, says Gemara, but maybe Noach was a trefa. V'dilma Noach gufei trefa ave. Says Gemara, no, he can't be a trefa because Tomim Ksiv, he was unblemished. Dilma Tomim B'drachav, maybe that means he was unblemished in his ways, in his midos. Tzaddik Siv, but it says Tzaddik, says Dilma Tomim B'drachav, but Tzaddik B'maisav, and he did righteous deeds, he did kind deeds. Says you can't say that Noach was a treifa. If Noach was a treifa, would we say in the pasuk Itak that you should take treifas like Noach? Amalei Rachmana de Kavasech Ayel Shleimim Loy Ta'ayel. Says well, Hashton Nafkami Itak. So then Lahachi Yoizera Lamali. Why does it have to say to promote the species? Says Gemara Ime Itak. If it just said Me Itak, I might think it just means for company. That he should bring them in, that he should have company. Va'afilu, thank you. Maybe put on a little air conditioning. Va'afilu zakein, va'afilu saris, even an old man, even one who is sterile. That they has to be able to procreate. Now, for those that are joining us late, and we really love to have already here 35 Zoomers, on a Matzah Shabbos, 35 Zoomers. You know, Shabbos Nachamu, some people like to, go to a concert, or go to But B'nai Aliyah know that the very best way to start off the week is with learning Torah. There's no, you know, think about what we sing is on Simchas Torah. Olam haba is a good zach. Learning Torah is a best zach. If learning Torah is a best zach from Olam haba, it's definitely a best zach from a concert. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Lazar, Minayin l'shoichet behema l'merkeles shuchayv. Now, remember I told you that there are universal worships. There are actually 4. Shoichet, to slaughter. Menasech, to offer a libation. Hishtachavot, to bow down. And what's the 4th one? There's a 4th one. Shoichet, Hishtachavot, Menasech, and Mekater, and to smoke incense or smoke up an offering. So here the Gemara just gives us a little bit of review. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Minayin l'shoich behema l'merkeles. How do you know that if you shecht an animal to merkeles? We know that's not the derech of Avoda for merkeles. The derech of Avoda for merkeles is disgusting. It's defecating in front of the merkeles. How do you know that if you do shchita to the merkeles, you chayv, that it's a capital offense? Shenemar.
Throwing stones.
What?
Merkeles is throwing stones.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about Balpar. Merkeles is throwing stones, but it's not shchita. Thank you, Gedalia. You see, Gedalia, you have to come. There's no excuse. And now at 8:30, it's a no-brainer. I mean, absolutely no-brainer. Rabbi, so you see that? You see the picture of him? Shtika kaida, in front of 35 Zoomers. He agrees.
He knows there's Avoda Zara.
Now, okay, so how do you know that if you shecht an animal to merkeles you chayiv? You should not slaughter sacrifices to the demons. Now, if it's not needed, if it's its normal procedure, that we know from that it's prohibited to do it in the way that they normal worship it, like merkeles throwing rocks. Teneu Indian l'shaloi kedark. Says the Gemara, but isn't this pasuk talking about shchutei chutz? It's talking about an entirely different subject. Is that coming for this? We already turned the page, 1/4 done of what is a very packed evening of Daf Yomi. A lot of learning. When we're finished this is 2 blot in our Olam Haba portfolio. I mean, this is really good stuff. Says the Gemara, this pasuk is talking about shchutei chutz. Now, just to give you a little bit of a preface, there was a time where there was allowed to be bamas, private altars. But once the Beis Hamikdash was set up, private altars became permanently forbidden. So if a person is makdish an animal during the time of Isser Bamas, and then shechts it outside of the Beis Hamikdash, that's a chiyuv kares. That's obvious. But then this pasuk is coming to tell us that even if he sanctified the animal at the time of heter bamas, but when he offered it up, it was already a time of Isser Bamas, that's prohibited, but there's no kares. Says until here it's talking about the kachim shektishim l'shasis or abamais that was sanctified at a time we were not allowed to have private altars. We krivam b'shasis or abamas. Shari onshan emar, the penalty of kares is covered. Shenemar vel pesach el moed leheviu, and you didn't bring it to the pesach el moed lahakriv korban laHashem lefnei mishkan Hashem. And it says over here, Dam Shafach v'nichras ha'ishahu mikerav Amon. So that pasuk tells you that there's kares. Azhara minayin. How do we know a lav, a warning? We have to have a einish and a warning. Talmud Leimer pen tala oiloisecha, lest you raise your burnt offerings anywhere else except in the Beis Hamikdash. And since it says pen, whenever it says the code words of pen, hishamar, or al, it's a lav. Okay, Rabbi Avin Amar Rabbi Lod, Rabbi Avin Amar Rabbi Lod, Kol Mak Mishamer Hishamar pen ba'al, Ein Ela B'Loi Saseh. Mikan ve'elach, then the pasuk kumedaber b'kachim shektishim b'shas heter habamas, kachim that sanctified while bamas were allowed, but v'krivim b'shas isra habamas, but he brought it when bamas are prohibited. Shenemar, Laman asher yaviu b'nei Yisrael esifcheihem asher heim zoivchim, that they should bring now the sacrifices which they were allowed to shecht outside the Beis Hamikdash. Shetarti l'kfar al pnei asada. If now, when the bamas are aser, if he brings it outside, it's considered as if he does it in the field. Malamik shekol hazavech b'bama b'shas yisur bamas malo alav akasav kilu zavech al pnei asada, without an altar at all. Rather, ve'viam la'Hashem, he should bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. Zu mitzvahs aseh. Or mitzvahs lo yisaseh minayin. How do we know that there's a lav at a time where it was dedicated b'shas heter bamas and sacrificed outside b'shas isur bamas? How do we know a lav? Talmud Leimer v'lo yizbechu oida zivcheihem l'seirim. Oh, that's our pasuk. So it's not extra to tell me where the avodah of the Avoda Zara is not shchita. I might think this is a case of karis. Talmud Leimer, it says by shrutei chutz at a time of isur bamas, when you dedicate it at a time of isur bamas, chukas olam tia zois lahem v'lei acheres lahem. Not if it was dedicated at a time of heter bamas. So you don't have the pasuk of lo yizbechu oid extra to tell me that if you shech to Merkulis, it's aser. Says Gemara Rabbit is two drushes. There's lo yizbechu, that's talking about shrutei chutz, but it also says oid, and from the oid karibei v'lo yizbechu, but karibei v'lo oid, and from the extra oid we learn out that shchita to an idol, that it's not the derech to do the shchita, is also an isra of Avoda Zara. New Mishnah, and we just talked about this Mishnah a moment ago. If you find on its head.
Was I the only one that lost about 3 minutes?
What?
I lost about 3 minutes. You were off for about 3 minutes.
It's probably only you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only you, and it's probably an einish for missing a month. But no more Gedal. It's 8:30. There's no excuses.
No excuses.
Thank you, everybody. Otherwise, we'll send people protesting in front of the Engel House. One Valley Stream, busloads of people. Now, matzah b'roishai mois ksus oikelim. If you find on the head of the Merkulis money, clothing, or utensils, ari elu mutar. Now remember, I told you that this is talking about where it wasn't put in a fashion of noi, but rather the money was in a pocketbook, the clothing was filled with pajamas, the kalim was an overturned basin, parchila anovim, but clusters of grapes, v'atar shel shibalim, wreaths of stalks, yena shman v'siltas, v'kol davar kiyotzi by karav al gabi mizbeach, or anything else where similar to it is often in a mizbeach is awesome. Minani mili, how do I know this? How do I know how do I know that it has to be a noi? So Amar Rab Chia bar Yosef, Amar Rab Aishia, Kasiv echad oimer vatiru eshikutzayim. You see that disgusting thing. Vesgiluleim eitz va'evan kesef v'zav, stone, wood and stone, silver and gold, asher imohem, which is with them. Because of echad oimer, only sachmoy kesef v'zav aleim. You should not desire the silver and gold upon them. Hoketzat. Imohem dumya da aleim. Ma aleim, just like upon them. Dover shel noi aser. Only something that's decorative is aser. That's why it says only silver and gold. She'ena shel noi mutter. If it's not decorative, it's mutter. Af imam, that which is with them, only dover shel noi aser v'she'ena shel noi mutter. So if it's wood and stone, which is decorative, it's aser. But here, mois, ksus, and kalim, which is not decorative, it's mutter. Says the Gemara, ve'ema aleim dumya di imoim. Just like by imoim, it says wood and stone, which is a lot of times not decorative. Mo imoim kol ma'ashi imoim. Af aleim also kol she'aleim. Says the Gemara, well, if that's true, if it's anything, then it shouldn't say aleim at all. Im kein lo yomer aleim. If it's just with them, it's aser. Then if it's on top of it, mamish, it surely should be aser. So therefore, we don't make the comparison the second way, but the first way. So right away, the Gemara pounces. Mois, davashal noyu. Money is nice. It's a pocketbook hanging by its neck. Ksus davashal noyu. Clothing could be very nice, a tuxedo. Pajamas folded and it's on its head. A utensil is a davashal noy. Amra papa deschifa lema shkilta reisha. He turned around a water basin on top of its head. Doesn't look nice at all. Now, there are certain getchkas that they put a curtain in front of it. That's like within the curtain is the inner sanctum of the getchke. Whatever was put within the curtain, even water and salt is aser, because that's definitely takruvus. Chutza kilkalan, outside of the curtain, davar shel noy aser, if it's decorative, it's aser. She'ena shel noy mutter. Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina nakatinon. We have a tradition. Ein kilkalan. There is no curtain. Loy lePa'ar v'loy leMerkulis. Not for Pa'ar and not for Merkulis. L'may. Ilay madafilu pnim kuchutz dami. Even if it's within the curtain, it's like it's outside. That doesn't make sense. Hashta pa'urei mefarin kamei, if they defecate in front of it, mayim amelech loik b'karina, then water and salt is not good. If even their own dung is good, water and salt is not good. Says the Gemara, no, to the contrary. Since it has a more accepting tolerance of its offering, el afilu chutz, even if it's outside the curtain, kepnim dami, it's as if it was inside the curtain by other karbanas, the aser, and it's aser. Now, starting the new Mishnah. Wow, this is amazing. We're covering a lot of ground. Only 34 more. What?
Baal Pa'ar, it wasn't that you could just do any disgusting thing you wanted in front of the Avoda Zara. It had to be specifically defecating. It's not that it was hefker, you could do whatever you wanted. It was a specific thing. They
right, except that since defecating is good, then something that is dignified is surely good. That's what the Gemara is saying. You're right. You're right. Maybe urinating would not be good. Now, Avodas kechavim shahaya lagina or merchatz, a idol that has a garden or a bathhouse. You want to know, could you go into the spa of the idol? Nenin mehen shaloi b'tova. You could benefit if you don't have to pay money. Ve'ein nenin mehen b'tova, because you don't want to give money to the priests. Haya shalov v'shalachem, but if it was belonged to the church and to a club, nenin mehen bein b'tova ve'ein shaloi b'tova, because we say that we could assume that the money will go to the club and not to the priests. Avodas kechavim shel oivei kechavim. This we'll see is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. A getchka of a guy is asura miyad, is asur immediately even before it's worshipped. V'shel Yisrael, but the getchka of a yid ain't asura ad shetei aved. It's not prohibited until it is worshipped. So right away, Amar Abaya, b'toiva, we said that you could benefit. You cannot benefit it if it's b'toiva, means b'toivas kaimin. You can't use it if you got to give payment for the garden or the bathhouse to the priest. Shaloi b'toiva means shaloi b'toivas kaimin. You don't have to give the money, so then you could use it. Lafukes toivas oivdea deshari. Even if you have to pay, but it goes only to the worshippers, it doesn't go to the priest, that's allowed. Some learn the qualifications is going on the sefer. If it belonged to the priests and to others, what does that mean? Amar Abaya, b'toiva is b'toivas acherim. If you could write the check out to the club, shaloi b'toiva means shaloi b'toivas coming. You can't write the check out to the priests. Now, Manda Masna Sefer Kol Shechein Areisha, that if the money goes to the priest, for sure it's not allowed to be done. Well, Manda Masna Areisha Aval Sefer, since the money could go to the club, Kevin Ika Acherim Bahada, since there are other people that partner in it, Afilo B'Toivus Kaimrin, even if the priests also take from it, Nami Shapardami, because you could assume that your money will go to the others. Avodas kechavim shel oivei kechavim asura miyad. The getchka of a guy is asur immediately. So the Gemara says we'll see that this is actually a big machlokes. This is not universal. Avigdor, welcome back as we are at the two dots. 11 lines from the bottom. Two dots.
My phone died, I'm sorry.
No excuses. I mean, you have to have backups and generators. You know the way it works. So anyway. Wow, how lucky we are to have so many wonderful people with us. Although Mark Frankel is hiding behind the screen, all the way from Bela Kinwood, he is really making an effort to be a big Baal Tshuva. I could see it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Mark, you're an inspiration to us, all the way from Bela Kinwood. I mean, so says the Gemara, our Mishnah says that the getchka of a guy is asur immediately, the getchka of a yid is asur when it's worshipped. So the Gemara says, Masnis and Mani, who's the author of our Mishnah? Rabbi Akiva. The Tanya, first we're going to learn an opposing position, the position of Rabbi Shmuel. The Tanya, Abei ta'abdun es kala mekaymes asher avdu sham hagayim, you should destroy all the places that the Gayim worshipped. B'kelim shenishtamshu b'hem la'avodis kechavim akas b'daber. These are kelim that were used for idolatry. Yachal osam v'loy gemara. I might think if they were made but they weren't finished, Gemarim, they were finished, v'loy haviyim, they weren't brought. Haviyim v'loy nishtamshu behem. They were brought and they weren't used in the service of an Avoda Zara. Yachol yu asurim. Talmud loimer asher ovdu sham agayim. Only if you actually ministered. She'ein asurin akshi yavdu. They're only asur if they are ministered. Mikan amar avodas kachavim shalai v'kachavim eina asura akshi te'ovid. It's not asur until it's worship. V'shel Yisrael asur miyad. Now that's the absolute opposite of our Mishnah. Dear Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva says like our Mishnah. Chiluf advar. It's just the opposite. Avodas kechavim shaloi v'kechavim asur miyad. The getchka of a guy is asur immediately. V'shel Yisrael, the getchka of a yid is only asur akshete of it, only asur when it's worship. Now we're going to detail the machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva and their reasoning, but we're going to pause now to turn over the channel.